Hey guys, this is week, I believe, 4 now, and we are starting with adding fractions. So this week we're going to be working on fractions. Today we'll be doing adding. On Thursday we'll be adding and subtracting. Okay. Big things we need to know is the top number is numerator, bottom number is denominator. I'm going to be referring to these two terms a lot, so make sure you understand that denominator is on our bottom and numerator is going to be up top. Adding fractions. Okay. So big thing here is that we need to make sure we have common denominators. Okay. If we don't have common denominators, we can't add anything together. As long as we have common denominators, we can kind of do whatever we want. Right. So first thing is we add numerator to numerator. Second thing, we do not ever add denominators. Okay, we don't ever add denominators. You have 3 pieces of a pot of the 7 slices plus 2 pieces of the 7 slices. You end up with 5 pieces of the 7 total slices. Okay, it doesn't turn to 5 out of 14. It is 5 out of 7. And that is the basics of adding fractions if we have a common denominator. Now, what happens if we don't have a common denominator, right? We cannot add or subtract unless the denominators are exactly the same. So on our left-hand side, we have 1/2 plus 1/4. And on our right, it says LCM, or least common multiple. Now that is the smallest number that is a multiple of both numbers. Okay, here and see, a lot of people get confused with multiple and factor, right? So multiple is when you take a number and you multiply it by something else, and that outcome is the multiple. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 is a multiple of 4. However, 2 times 3 is 6. 2 and 3 are factors of 6. Okay. How to find your LCM? Well, we're working with denominators 2 and 4 today. Okay. So you're more than welcome to use multiplication chart. If you just know these off the top of your head, that's fine as well. I think visually, multiplication chart works wonders, right? So we're going to find 2 columns that we are working with. So we are working with 2 and 4. Okay. So we don't care about anything else. All we care about right now is 2 and 4. Our next goal is to identify the smallest number that is in both columns. Okay. Now, that doesn't just mean that we pick the smallest number in the column. It has to be in both 2 and 4. And in this case, it is the number 4. Now we have to figure out, well, how do I go from 2 to 4? In this case, it's 2 times 2, or 4 times 1, right? So we know we need to multiply. We found our LCM. Now we can fix our problem. We know our LCM is 4, and we know that we have to multiply our 2 by 2 to get to that 4. So we do this. Big thing. This is probably the second most or second largest rule with fractions. Whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. You can't do anything else, right? You can only multiply by a value of 1. 2 over 2 is equal to a 1, right? So as you can see over here, we are multiplying 2 times 2. We're multiplying 1 times 2. And we end up getting 2 over 4. Okay? Now we have to figure out the same thing with the second fraction. We already know that 4 times 1 gives us 4. So we have to do 1 times 1, and we stick with the same fraction. Now we have 2 new fractions. We're done with these 2. Okay, we're done with them. Now we have 2/4 and 1/4. So now instead of 1/2 plus 1/4, it ends up being 2/4 plus 1/4. We add our numerators, don't ever add your denominators, and you get 3/4. What about an improper fraction, right? What if we convert a mixed number to an improper fraction? Well, it's a little bit of a formula. It's your denominator times your whole number plus your numerator all over the original denominator. So in this case, our denominator is 3. So I put 3 here. Our whole number is 2. So I put 2 here. And our numerator is 1. And it's all over our original denominator. Okay. So now we just multiply. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. 7 over 3. So that means that 2 and 1/3 is equal to 7/3. Let's add mixed numbers together. All right. There's going to be 2 ways. I'm going to show you the first way, and then I'll show you a second way after this. So the first thing is we have to convert our mixed numbers to an improper fraction. Okay, so again, it's our denominator times our whole number. So 5 times 3 plus 1, all over 5. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 gives me a 16 over 5. And now we can do it again for the other fraction. 5 times 1 is 6, or excuse me, is 5, plus 3 is 8, 8 over 5. So now all we have to do is add our numerators together. 16 plus 8 gives me 24 over 5. Now, we have to think to ourselves, what does that mean, right? How can we figure that out? Well, we have to reduce this. How many times does 5 go into 24? 5 goes into 24 4 times, so that becomes our whole number, and we're left with 4 over 5. For right now, I would like you to get to here. This is where I prefer, but if you can get to at least this point, that would be perfect. Okay, so here's another way, but this only works with adding. Okay, this does not work specifically with subtraction. It takes a whole lot more steps with subtraction. Right? So the first thing we're going to do is add our whole numbers together. So 3 plus 1 gives us 4. Okay. Step 2 is we have to find our common denominator with the fractions that are left over. So in this case, it's 1/5 plus 3/5. Lucky for us, we have common denominators. Now we have to do is add them together. 1/5 plus 3/5 is 4/5. Last but not least, we add our fraction plus our whole number. We end up with 4 and 4/5. This was a pretty simple one because we had the same denominator. If we didn't have the same denominator, we would have to find the LCM, and then we would go through the same steps. This only works best with addition. So yes, it will work with subtraction, but it is more advanced for subtraction. It takes a whole lot more thinking. So I would use a different way for subtraction, and I'll teach you that on Thursday. Last but not least, this is just converting a fraction to a decimal. Um, the numerator divided by the denominator, that's all you have to do. You take the numerator, 3 divided by 5, you get 0.600, right? Or 6 hundredths, or 6 thousandths, or 6 tenths. It's just 0.6, right? And this is what's considered a terminating decimal. There are no repeating numbers. Zeros don't count. There are no repeating digits. And it stops. So this would be a terminating decimal. If we look over on the right, this is a repeating decimal. 2 divided by 3 gives us 0.66 with a line over top. This tells us that it's repeating. This line over top tells us that we are repeating. So this 6 will consistently keep showing up. 0.6, 6, and so forth. What's the line over top of the 6's? That is called a viculum. Okay, you will never have to know what that is in terms of a definition. It's one of those. It's one of those tricks that hopefully you can bring up in math class to stump your math teacher later down the road. So it's a viculum. If you guys have any questions on this, please let me know. This is definitely going to be one of the trickier subjects that we are starting with this year. So again, if you have anything, please let me know, and I look forward to hearing from all of you.